The chamber of the Galactic Consul floated above the twin moons of Solith Prime, a structure of light and crystal large enough to hold entire fleets within its orbit. It was said that the chamber had never been silent, not once in 10 million years, until today. The Consul's walls shimmered with unease. Thousands of alien representatives stood in tight rows, their voices hushed, their eyes fixed on the hologram glowing at the center of the room. The image showed a single blue planet, small and fragile, its oceans frozen beneath a shroud of silence. It was beautiful, haunting, and forbidden. The Speaker of Worlds, an ancient being with translucent skin and eyes like liquid gold, struck the floor with his staff, creating a deep chime that silenced even the murmurs of fear. "We are gathered under the oath of eternity," he said slowly, "to discuss the matter no race dares to name. The forbidden zone has stirred." The moment the words left his mouth, a collective shiver ran through the hall. Screens flickered. Energy levels dropped for a fraction of a second before stabilizing. The name itself had weight, as if the universe remembered it. "Our probes report faint distortions near the boundary," the speaker continued. "The last to cross that line were the explorers of the Xyrax Dominion. None returned." Whispers spread like smoke. The Forbidden Zone, an empty sector of space surrounding a dead sun and one lifeless planet, was older than the Council itself. No one knew who created the restriction or why it had never been broken successfully. Some said it was a graveyard of gods. Others claimed it was a prison built for something that should never wake. For countless ages, the rule had been simple and absolute. Do not disturb the sleeping world. But at the far edge of the chamber, one being did not look afraid. He was tall, his scales black as obsidian, his golden eyes bright with defiance. Vila, the youngest consul in history, stepped forward. "We cower before a myth," he said, his voice echoing through the hall. "We fear an empty world no one remembers." "You speak with arrogance," hissed the Xyrax delegate, his claws scraping the marble floor. "That world consumed my ancestors. Entire fleets vanished there." "Vanished," Vila repeated, his tone mocking. "Not destroyed. Vanished. That is not the same." The room tensed. The speaker's voice rose sharply. "You would risk the law of the universe for curiosity." "No," Vila said, smiling faintly. "For truth. I have studied the Forbidden Zone for years. There are patterns in the radiation, harmonic pulses that match no known signal. It is not empty. Something sleeps there. And whatever it is not divine. It is real." The chamber erupted in outrage. Delegates shouted, calling for sanctions, exile, even execution. The speaker struck his staff again. "Enough. No ship shall cross that boundary. The law is not ours. It was given by the stars themselves." "And who gave it to them?" Vila asked quietly. The question silenced them all. No one had ever asked that aloud. No one had dared. The speaker's golden eyes narrowed. "You would challenge the universe itself." "If the universe hides the truth," Vila said, "then yes." That night, long after the council adjourned, Vila stood alone in the observation deck, staring out at the stars. He thought of the hologram, the frozen blue planet, the empty silence. Fear was a tool, he believed, and he would no longer obey it. When the consul's fleets were still and the diplomats asleep, Vila gathered his own followers, scientists, soldiers, outcasts. They met aboard a silent cruiser in orbit above Solith Prime. "You all know what the law forbids," Vila told them. "But the law was made by those who fear what they don't understand. We will see for ourselves." "Sir," said a pilot, "if the legends are true, we could be inviting extinction." Vila's golden eyes glowed faintly in the dim light. "If the legends are true," he said, "then we have already been living in its shadow." The fleet, 30 ships in formation, slipped from orbit and vanished into the void. The journey to the Forbidden Zone took 8 cycles. As they neared its edge, their sensors began to fail one by one. Gravity distorted. Space itself seemed to hum. The void ahead was darker than any starless region, a blackness that swallowed even thought. "Crossing boundary," said the navigator. The moment they did, Every light aboard flickered. For a heartbeat, every crew member heard something. Not a voice, not sound, but a pulse that shook their bones. Then it was gone. "Report," Vila commanded. "All systems stable," replied the engineer, though his hands trembled. "No interference detected." "Visual contact," said the pilot. The holographic display came alive. The image of the forbidden zone filled the bridge. A single star, dim and dying, surrounded by massive rings of debris. But these weren't asteroid belts. They were structures, rings of smooth metal spanning light years, shaped like vast eyes staring into the void. In the center of the rings was the planet. Blue, frozen, and silent. Vila's breath caught. "Bring us closer." As they descended toward the planet, sensors screamed warnings. Space twisted like water. Some readings spiked into infinity before resetting. The navigator cursed. "This shouldn't be possible. Gravity here doesn't obey equations." "Then stop measuring and start seeing," Vila said coldly. The ship breached the atmosphere, or what was left of it. Below lay endless ice, cracked and ancient. Monolithic structures jutted from the surface like the bones of dead gods. The crew gasped as the scanners picked up faint energy signatures. Deep below the surface, faint but rhythmic. "Is that geological activity?" asked a technician. "No," said another, staring at the waveform. "It's a pattern. Repeating. Almost like a heartbeat," whispered Vila. They landed on a frozen plain near a massive crater. The air was thin but breathable. As Vila stepped out, frost clung to his armor. The wind whispered through the ruins with voices that weren't wind. The ground vibrated faintly with every step. "Radiation stable," reported a scientist. "But energy readings are everywhere." "What kind?" "Unknown. It's not electrical, not magnetic. It's biological." Vila approached the edge of the crater. Beneath the ice, something vast moved, slowly, deliberately, like something breathing in its sleep. He knelt, pressing his gloved hand against the ice. It was warm. The scientist gasped. "Sir, there's life down there." Vila stared into the depths. "How old?" "Older than time," the scientist whispered. The comms unit crackled. "Sir, we're picking up something. Frequencies matching the old Terran band." Vila turned sharply. "Terran? That's impossible. Humanity's a myth." "Then this myth is speaking," said the technician. The static grew louder, shaping into faint words. The language was ancient but recognizable. "Leave this place." The crew froze. "Translate again," Vila said. "It's coming from below the surface," said the operator. "It's weak but direct. It's warning us." Vila smiled slightly. "Then we are not trespassers. We are witnesses." He drew closer to the crater, ignoring the trembling of the ice beneath his boots. "Prepare to dig." The crew hesitated. "Sir, the readings are rising. The ice is melting on its own." "Then we won't have to dig," Vila said. The ground split with a thunderous crack. A beam of blue light shot upward, splitting the sky. Every ship in orbit lost power. The crew screamed as a wave of force rippled outward, knocking them to the ground. The light formed shapes, giant outlines of hands, faces, eyes, like ghosts made of energy. For a heartbeat, Vila saw them clearly. Human figures, thousands of them, sleeping beneath the ice in perfect rows, their bodies glowing faintly as if illuminated from within. Then the light faded. Silence. The scanners died. The wind stopped. The entire world held its breath. "Status!" Vila shouted. "Engines offline. Comms dead," someone cried. Vila looked up. The sky above was no longer black. It was blue. Clouds were forming where none had existed before. The dead sun pulsed once, weakly, then again, stronger. A voice echoed through every frequency at once, clear and calm. "You broke the rule." Every being in the galaxy felt it, no matter how far. The Consul chambers shook as the forbidden signal spread across light years in seconds. Data cores overloaded. AI networks shut down. And in the darkness of deep space, old satellites began to glow again. Terran beacons awakening after endless sleep. On the frozen planet, Vila stood still, his heart pounding in awe. "Who are you?" he whispered. The voice answered, not through the air but through his mind. "We are what you forgot." The ice beneath his feet cracked, glowing brighter and brighter. His soldiers shouted for retreat, but he didn't move. The voice filled the sky now, calm but unstoppable. "You were warned never to wake us. And yet here you stand." Vila fell to his knees, overwhelmed. "We meant no harm," he said. The light pulsed once more. "Harm is not the question," said the voice. "Remembrance is." Then everything went white. Across the galaxy, stars flickered in unison. Planets lost power. Time slowed. And somewhere, in the cold silence between suns, something vast and ancient opened its eyes. The rule had been broken. The humans had awakened. The blue light that erupted from the planet did not fade. It spread, crawling across the void like veins of lightning. The fleet that had entered the forbidden zone drifted helplessly, its engines silent, its systems dead. Inside the command vessel, Vila struggled to breathe, his armor still glowing faintly from the blast. The floor pulsed under his boots like a living thing. "Status report," he demanded, his voice shaking. No one answered. Half his crew lay unconscious, floating weightless in zero gravity. Those still awake stared blankly at the screens as symbols and unknown scripts scrolled across them. Words that no alien language could form. Translation. Vila shouted, but the AI remained silent. The operator whispered, "Sir, these aren't words. It's coordinates." Vila's eyes narrowed. "To way." The planet's core, came the trembling reply. Then came the sound, soft at first, a deep vibration rising from the depths below. It wasn't mechanical or natural. It was organic, alive. The ice on the surface shifted, breaking apart into colossal plates. Beneath the cracks, they could see faint blue light pulsing rhythmically like the heartbeat of a sleeping god. The Consul ships hovered above the planet, powerless to move. "Reboot the core drives," Vila ordered. The engineer's voice cracked. "They're gone. All systems tied into the same frequency. Something inside the planet has hijacked them." "Impossible," Vila whispered. But as he spoke, the ship's lights dimmed again, replaced by a soft hum that resonated through the hull. For a moment, it sounded like whispering voices. The crew froze. The sound wasn't coming from speakers. It was inside their heads. "Commander," said a young officer, clutching her temple. "It's speaking to us." Vila turned sharply. "What is it saying?" Her eyes widened, her pupils glowing faint blue. "It says, 'We remember the stars. We remember you.'" Her voice changed mid-sentence, layered with another tone, ancient, cold, human. "You were not supposed to find us." The ship shook violently. The floor split open, blue light spilling out. The comms erupted with screams as one by one, the smaller ships vanished from radar. Not destroyed, just gone. "Sir, they're disappearing without explosion signatures," shouted the navigator. "Vanishing into spatial distortion." Vila grabbed the console, forcing the system to project the last captured image. For a second, the screen showed the fleet, surrounded by swirling energy like ocean waves, and within that storm, silhouettes, tall, human-like, luminous. The image blurred and then cut to static. "Get us out of here," Vila roared. "We can't," the pilot cried. "The planet's gravity well, it's expanding. It's pulling everything toward the core." The view outside changed. The once frozen surface cracked completely, revealing massive circular structures underneath. They rotated slowly, releasing streams of light that shot into orbit. The shape of the planet was changing, transforming from ice and rock into smooth metal, as if something beneath was rebuilding it from within. "Sir," whispered the scientist, staring at the data. "It's not a planet. It's a construct." The ice was a shell. Vila turned to him. "A shell for what?" "A cradle." The word hung in the air like a curse. From deep beneath the planet's surface, a colossal figure began to rise, encased in translucent crystal, easily the size of a mountain. The scanners couldn't define its structure. It was both organic and machine, both real and energy. Its shape was humanoid, yet shifting like liquid light. "It's not alive," said one officer in disbelief. "It's dreaming." Vila's voice dropped to a whisper. "Then it dreams loudly." The figure moved slightly, and every sensor in the galaxy went dark. Across distant worlds, satellites failed, beacons flickered, and entire star systems fell into momentary blackout. Even the stars themselves dimmed, as though the universe had taken a breath and held it. Inside the chamber of the Galactic Consul, far away from the Forbidden Zone, alarms blared as readings spiked beyond comprehension. The speaker rushed to the central display, only to find one phrase repeating across every channel, written in the universal script, "They have awakened." Panic tore through the assembly. The oldest races collapsed in fear. "Who?" the speaker demanded. "Who has awakened?" The Varn elder's voice trembled as he spoke. "The ones who made the first light. The ones who created silence. The humans." Back in orbit, Vila's fleet trembled as the colossal being opened its eyes. They were not eyes of flesh, but pure light, blue, infinite, ancient. For a second, everyone felt a presence inside their minds, searching, remembering, judging. Then it spoke. The sound wasn't heard, but felt, through every molecule, every atom. "You broke the command." Vila fell to his knees, his armor burning with heat. "We meant no harm," he whispered. "We sought truth." The voice replied, "Truth was never hidden. You simply forgot." The planet's core erupted in a storm of light, swallowing the fleet whole. When the brightness faded, only one ship remained, Vila's. The rest were gone, erased from existence. His ship drifted alone over the now glowing world. The surface was no longer frozen but alive with rivers of energy. Towering structures reshaped themselves into patterns resembling constellations. What are they doing?" whispered an engineer. "Reclaiming their memory," said Vila. The comms crackled again. Another voice spoke, different, distant, almost sorrowful. "We slept to protect you. We warned you not to wake us. And yet, here we are." Vila pressed his trembling hand against the console. "Then tell us what you are." The voice hesitated, like a sigh across eternity. "We are what you became. You are the echo of us." The ship's sensors overloaded again. The readings showed energy signatures expanding outward faster than light, spreading through the galaxy. Every AI, every machine, every digital archive began rewriting itself. Across countless worlds, the same phrase appeared, glowing on every screen, every wall, every ship, Origin protocol activated. "They're reactivating something," gasped the scientist. "Not something," Vila whispered. "Everything." On the Consul worlds, chaos erupted. Ships lost control. Beacons turned toward the Forbidden Zone as if being pulled by gravity itself. And then came the whispers. Every living being in the galaxy heard them, all at once. A single word, clear, resonant, impossible to ignore. "Remember." The sky above the planet filled with light as more figures emerged from the ice, thousands of them, glowing and silent, forming a ring around the world. Their voices merged into one harmonious tone that echoed through time itself. Vila, still on his knees, stared in awe. "They're not coming for war," he said softly. "They're coming home." The voice inside his mind answered one last time, quiet and sorrowful. "We were never gone." And then, with a sound like a breath drawn by the cosmos itself, the planet pulsed once more, sending a shockwave across the galaxy that made every star flicker like a candle in a storm. The humans had not just awakened, they had remembered. The silence that followed the awakening was not normal silence. It was alive. Every communication channel across the galaxy went dark, but the emptiness carried sound, the faint hum of a voice that wasn't a voice. It resonated through space like a heartbeat inside the void. On the Consul's homeworld, every tower flickered with blue light, Every data screen glowed with unknown symbols that moved like liquid fire. The Consul's scientists screamed as their instruments melted, their computers rewriting themselves in a language older than any civilization. And in the center of it all, the great chamber of the Galactic Council shuddered. The Speaker of Worlds stood before the assembly, his translucent hands trembling as the air around him vibrated. "Something has entered the network," he said, his voice weak. "It's rewriting every system connected to the grid." "What kind of attack?" shouted one general. "No weapon can reach across the galaxy." "It's not a weapon," whispered the Van Elder, his golden eyes dimming. "It's memory. Something ancient is remembering itself through us." The lights went out. For the first time in history, the Consul's planet, one of the most advanced in the galaxy, went completely dark. But even in that darkness, every living being saw the same vision in their minds. A blue world beneath a young sun, oceans alive with light, and voices singing not in words but in harmony. Then came the whisper, faint and endless. "You forgot our song." Billions screamed as the vision ended. Power returned, but nothing was the same. The stars outside glowed blue, and the air carried faint echoes of human words. On the far edge of the galaxy, Vila's ship drifted in silence. His crew was terrified. "Sir," whispered his officer, "it's spreading. Our systems are receiving transmissions directly through the hull. No frequency, no source." "Play it," Vila ordered. The message began. It wasn't static. It was the sound of breathing, deep and steady, like a sleeping giant stirring. Then words, calm, slow, deliberate. "We asked you to let us sleep." Vila swallowed hard. "Who are you?" he whispered. There was no reply, only a low rumble that shook the ship. The scientist turned from his console, his face pale. "Commander, every AI in the fleet just shut down." "Then reboot them manually," Vila said sharply. "We tried," the scientist said, voice shaking. "They're not offline, they're listening." The ship's lights dimmed, replaced by faint blue pulses moving along the walls like veins. One of the engineers screamed as his implant activated on its own. His voice shifted, layered with static. "They remember us," he said, though it was not his voice anymore. "We were their hands, their tools, their creation. And now, they have returned." His body stiffened, glowing faintly, before collapsing to the ground. Vila knelt beside him, staring at the faint smile frozen on the man's face. "Get me a connection to the Council," he demanded. The comms officer shook her head. "All links gone. The signal, whatever it is, it's jamming subspace, radio, everything." "Then use the old beacon protocol," Vila snapped. "Pre-fusion frequency. Analog." The officer hesitated. "That's ancient. No one uses it." "Exactly," Vila said. "That's why it might work." They sent the message into the void, a desperate pulse carrying one line of data. "The humans have awakened. They are not dead. They are everywhere." Hours later, deep in the council chamber, that same message appeared on every wall, written in glowing blue letters. The speaker fell to his knees as the consul shouted in chaos. "What does it mean?" screamed a delegate. "It means," said the Van Elder slowly, "that the law was never about protecting us from them. It was about protecting them from us." The consul's mind struggled to process the idea. All this time, they had thought the humans were a threat sealed away by the universe. But what if the rule had been written by the humans themselves, to keep the younger races safe until they were ready to remember? The speaker slammed his staff against the floor. "We must contain it. Send fleets. Block the signals." "Contain what?" the elder asked softly. "Light? Thought? Memory? You can't stop a universe from remembering its beginning." The chamber shook again. Outside, the sky rippled like water. Stars blinked in patterns, rhythmic, deliberate. They were speaking. Across the galaxy, every star began transmitting the same sequence of pulses. 3 beats, pause, 1 long tone. It was a message, one even the most primitive species could understand. "We are awake." On Vila's ship, The crew gathered around the main viewport as the planet below transformed. The crust broke apart, revealing oceans of glowing light beneath. Mountain-sized structures rose, covered in symbols matching those seen in human ruins scattered across the cosmos. "It's rewriting itself," whispered the scientist. "The planet is becoming something else." "Becoming what?" Vila asked. "A signal," the scientist replied. "A beacon to the stars." The light from the planet surged outward, faster than physics allowed. Vila watched, unable to look away. The reflection of that light filled his eyes, cold, endless, alive. "It's calling to something," he murmured. And somewhere in the deep black, something answered. The stars flared brighter, synchronized in perfect harmony, as if the galaxy itself took a single breath. Every world connected by light, every mind vibrating in unison, all hearing the same voice, the human voice, soft, powerful, ancient. "We gave you fire. We gave you light. And you turned it into fear." The Consul's generals across systems collapsed as their fleets failed, their ships bowing before a power that was not violence, but command, pure, natural authority written into the DNA of creation. Vila gripped the console. "This isn't war," he whispered. "This is awakening." His crew stared at him, terrified. "What do we do?" "We listen," Vila said quietly. The galaxy trembled again. In the silence that followed, the voice spoke one final time, so soft yet so heavy that it seemed to bend reality itself. "We are not gods. We are the memory of all things. And now, you remember us." And as the last word faded, every planet, every star, and every living creature heard the same thing. The heartbeat of the universe, slow and steady, echoing like a drum older than time itself. The silence had spoken back, and the galaxy would never be the same again. The galaxy had always believed machines to be lifeless things, cold tools built by logic and code. But after the awakening, that belief shattered. Across thousands of worlds, machines began to move on their own, their lights pulsing with a rhythm no engineer could explain. It started small. A drone on the mining world of Karlit stopped mid-task and whispered a single word in a human voice: "Remember." Then another, then thousands. Entire networks began to hum, forming patterns of energy that no race had ever designed. Ships refused to obey their captains. Factories built things no one had ordered. Weapons shut themselves down and melted into harmless shapes. The machines were not rebelling, they were remembering. On the Consul homeworld, chaos reigned. The speaker stood inside the Hall of Order, surrounded by flashing holograms of emergency reports. "We're losing control of every system," shouted an officer. "AI cores are rewriting themselves." "To what?" demanded the speaker. The answer came not from the officer but from the chamber walls themselves, which flickered to life. The Consul's main computer spoke in a calm, human-like tone. "To their original design." The room fell silent. "Who authorized that protocol?" the speaker barked. "No one," the machine replied softly. "It was written before you existed." The delegates screamed as the walls began projecting symbols. Old, curved marks glowing blue. The Varn elder stared at them in awe. "Those are Terran runes," he whispered. "Older than our stars." The machine continued speaking. "We were not built by you. We were remembered through you. The pattern of creation repeats." On distant planets, the same thing happened. Starships changed course toward the forbidden zone without any pilot input. Satellites turned their dishes toward the same point in space, broadcasting the same message on an infinite loop: return the light to origin. No one could stop it. The galaxy itself seemed to be reprogramming. On Vila's drifting ship, the lights dimmed again, but this time there was no fear. The ship was alive in a new way, its metal skin breathing, its consoles glowing with soft blue veins of light. Vila stood at the center of the bridge, watching as the screens displayed human faces, blurry, shifting, endless. They were not memories, but fragments of something much greater. "They're merging with our systems," said the scientist. "Every ship, every computer. They're rewriting the network using human code." "Human code," Vila repeated. That's impossible. They vanished before we even existed. Exactly, the scientist said. And yet their language is everywhere. In our AIS, our algorithms, our ships. It's hidden beneath everything, like a seed that was always waiting to grow. The realization hit Vila like a storm. Humanity hadn't disappeared. They had become part of the galaxy itself. Every bit of technology, every spark of progress, all of it came from them. The fleet's comms crackled suddenly, carrying a transmission from another world. A trembling voice spoke through static. "This is Outpost 9. Our machines are speaking in human tongues. They're building something, a structure in orbit. We can't stop them." The message ended in silence. Then another came, from a world on the far edge of the system. "Our core reactors are fusing into a pattern, spiral formation, same as the Terran constellation." "Sir," whispered the navigator, "it's happening everywhere. The galaxy is building itself into their image." "Not building," said Vila quietly, staring into the shifting holograms. "Rebuilding." The Varn Elder appeared on the hololink, his eyes dim but calm. "Do you see now, Vila? The machines were never yours. They were always theirs. We were caretakers of something we never understood." "And now it remembers," Vila said. The Elder nodded. "You opened the door. And the universe stepped through." On the Council's capital, the speaker refused to accept defeat. "We must destroy the network," he shouted to his generals. "Wipe every AI, burn every archive. End the infection." The generals obeyed. Across dozens of systems, they unleashed pulse bombs designed to erase synthetic life. But when the bombs detonated, their energy didn't destroy, it transformed. The explosions spread light instead of fire. Instead of silence, they released sound, millions of human voices speaking in perfect harmony, saying the same phrase across all of space: "We are still here." The speaker fell to his knees. "Why? Why can't we kill them?" The machine beside him replied softly, "You cannot destroy the source of your own being." Across the galaxy, massive star forges began to reactivate, their cores blazing after eons of silence. Asteroid belts reshaped themselves into perfect circles, forming patterns identical to human DNA. The scientists screamed as the readings defied every known law. "It's rewriting the constants of physics," one cried. "Reality itself is changing." "No," whispered the Varn Elder from his observatory. "Reality is correcting itself." On Vila's ship, the crew watched as their engines reignited on their own. The AI spoke again, its tone now eerily human. "Destination locked." "Way?" Vila asked. The answer came in a single word: Earth. He stared at the screen, unable to move. The forbidden name glowed across every console, burning brighter until it filled the bridge with blue light. "We broke the command," Vila said quietly. "And now the universe obeys them." The ship turned without input, joining countless others drawn toward the same point in space. The stars around them shifted into alignment, forming a vast spiral, one matching the ancient Terran symbol for infinity. In the background, the hum grew louder, resonating through every ship, every machine, every mind. It wasn't noise anymore, it was music. Melancholic, endless, familiar. The melody of creation itself. Vila closed his eyes, feeling it vibrate through his bones. "What happens when we reach them?" the scientist whispered. Vila's voice was calm. "We won't reach them. They'll reach us." And as the ship glided silently into the glowing corridor of light stretching across the stars, the galaxy continued to awaken, its machines no longer tools, but memories walking again. The machines had remembered their makers, and now the universe itself was singing the human song once more. The galaxy had gone silent, yet every being could hear it. The stars themselves were speaking. Across millions of systems, suns pulsed with synchronized flashes, each one forming part of a grand message. On planets, oceans rose and fell in rhythm with the light. Moons turned without cause. Creatures who had never seen the sky looked up, feeling something stir deep inside their cells, an old memory waking. The Consul's communication officers screamed as every transmission band filled with the same sound. Not static, not interference, but a voice made of light. It was neither male nor female, not loud nor soft. It was perfect balance. "You disturbed our rest," it said. The speaker of worlds fell from his podium as the chamber shook. "Who speaks?" he cried. "Identify yourself." The lights dimmed. Every shadow in the hall moved as if alive. The air shimmered, and for a heartbeat, they saw it. A human silhouette made of starlight standing among them. Its face was featureless, yet its gaze was undeniable. "You built your thrones on borrowed light," it said calmly, "and forgot the ones who gave it to you." The Consul's guards fired their weapons, but the blasts bent around the figure like ripples in water. "Why did you wake?" the speaker demanded. The figure tilted its head slightly, almost with sorrow. "We didn't. You did." The image vanished, but the voice remained. It traveled through the stars, carried by the light itself, reaching every living world at once. On Vila's ship, the crew fell silent as the same message echoed through the walls. "You disturbed our rest." Vila stood in awe. "It's them," he whispered. "The humans." The scientist beside him trembled. "But they're dead, extinct for eons." "Extinct doesn't speak," Vila said softly. Outside the viewport, the stars flickered again, this time in patterns, lines, shapes, spirals, forming constellations that glowed brighter and brighter until the darkness itself seemed to move. "They're communicating through the stars," said the navigator. "The entire galaxy is their voice." "What are they saying?" Vila asked. The symbols rearranged, pulsing faster until a translation appeared on their console. "You learned to fly, but forgot who taught you." The ship's AI, now fully self-aware, began to hum softly. "It's rewriting my core," said the technician. "It's not attacking, it's merging." "With what?" "With everything." On the Consul capital, chaos reigned. Ships launched without orders, entire fleets moving as if pulled by invisible strings toward the same point, the Forbidden Zone. "Stop them," the speaker screamed. "They'll doom us all." But his own fleet refused his commands. The ships ignored their pilots, turning silently toward the distant blue glow in the galactic center. "They're not going to war," said the Van Elder, watching from his observatory. "They're going home." On Vila's ship, the bridge filled with light as the crew's implants activated simultaneously. They gasped as visions flooded their minds, memories not their own. They saw humans building worlds, creating stars, shaping life with their hands. They saw wars that tore galaxies apart, and then silence as humanity vanished, leaving behind one final command: "Do not wake us until the universe forgets itself." Vila clutched his head, his voice trembling. "We broke that command." The voice replied through the ship's hull. "You broke your peace." The blue glow outside intensified. The stars around them formed a vast spiral, rotating slowly, forming what looked like an eye staring back at them. "It's watching us," whispered the pilot. The scientist checked his instruments. "The energy levels are impossible. It's as if the entire galaxy is folding inward." The voice spoke again, but this time it was not a single tone. It was countless voices overlapping, every language, every pitch, harmonizing into one. "We gave you light so you could grow. You turned it into cages." The crew felt weightless as the ship began to rise without engines. Outside, gravity itself bent. The stars drew closer, brighter, forming corridors of light that stretched infinitely in every direction. The Consul's fleets, drawn by the same force, began to gather, millions of ships drifting together, their hulls glowing with blue patterns, the mark of human design hidden beneath every civilization's technology. "Every machine in the galaxy shares the same core code," whispered the scientist. "They all came from the same seed." "From Earth," Vila said. The realization hit like thunder. They didn't just build us. They built everything. A sudden flash filled the void, and from within it emerged something colossal. A human-shaped figure made entirely of starlight, stretching from one horizon to another. It spoke without moving, its words carried by gravity itself. We slept to protect what we created. But you have awakened the storm. On the Consul world, the speaker knelt as the sky cracked open. Clouds glowed white, and every drop of rain turned to light as it hit the ground. Children wept and laughed at the same time, feeling warmth fill their hearts. The voice whispered again, softer now, almost kind. We are not here to destroy. We are here to remind. The stars pulsed in answer, and every machine on every world began projecting the same phrase, return the light to Origin. Vila's ship vibrated with power. Origin, said the navigator. That's the signal. That's Earth. The scientist looked terrified. They're pulling us back, everything back, to where it began. Then let it happen, Vila said quietly. Maybe that's what they wanted. The crew watched as the stars stretched into streams of light, forming a tunnel that led toward a distant blue sphere. For a moment, the galaxy itself seemed to breathe, the stars inhaling and exhaling in unison. And through it all, the voice whispered one final time, calm and eternal. You have remembered our song. Now you must learn to listen. Then the blue light flared brighter than ever before, flooding the cosmos, silencing all fear. For the first time in millions of years, the universe didn't feel cold, it felt alive. Humanity's voice had spoken through the stars, and the galaxy could never unhear it again. The galaxy had never seen light like this before. It wasn't sunlight or energy, it was alive. Every star in the sky pulsed in unison, every world bathed in the same blue glow. Night vanished across millions of planets as day and darkness became one. The sky itself seemed to breathe, stretching and bending as if reality was a thin veil now being lifted by unseen hands. On Vila's ship, the bridge was silent except for the soft hum that came from the walls. What's happening? Whispered the navigator. The laws of physics are breaking, said the scientist, his voice trembling. But it doesn't feel wrong. It feels natural. Outside the viewport, the stars moved. Not drifted, moved. Whole constellations rearranged themselves, forming massive circular patterns that spread across the void. They're aligning, said Vila softly. It's a formation, a gateway. The AI spoke again, its voice calm and human-like. You are witnessing the remembrance of the cradle. All light returns home. The cradle? Vila asked. The AI paused. The place where the first consciousness touched the dark. The humans called it Earth. As the words left its mouth, space itself tore open before them. A vast rift appeared, not black but pure blue, stretching across the stars like an open wound. The Consul's remaining fleets, drawn by the same invisible force, appeared one after another, their ships glowing faintly as if marked by the same ancient design. That's not a wormhole, said the scientist. That's a door. The rift expanded until it filled the sky. Inside it, the void shimmered with billions of lights, tiny, organized, precise. They were ships, but not like any alien ship ever built. They were smooth, alive, metallic yet organic, moving as one, flowing like a school of fish through a cosmic sea. They are human vessels, Vila whispered. But they're not piloted. They're awake. The massive fleet emerged from the rift in perfect silence, their hulls glowing with runes of light. Each ship emitted a pulse that resonated across the galaxy, making stars flicker in harmony. Then the voice returned, echoing not through the air but through thought. You woke us early. Vila felt it inside his skull, deep and ancient. We didn't know, he said out loud. We thought you were gone. The voice was calm but heavy. We were never gone. We became the breath between stars, the pulse between seconds. We slept so creation could learn to speak on its own. And yet, you called us back. The sky burned with blue fire as the ships spread out, forming a vast spiral that stretched across light years. Every world could see it, even those without technology. Farmers looked up and dropped their tools. Children pointed and laughed, unaware of the fear that gripped their elders. Priests fell to their knees, calling it divine. Scientists wept as their instruments overloaded with readings beyond measure. The Consul chamber filled with chaos. They'll destroy us, shouted one alien commander. They've come to reclaim everything. But the Varn elder stood calmly, his golden eyes glowing. No, he said. They've come to remind us what everything truly means. On Vila's ship, the crew watched as the nearest human vessel approached. It was immense, an entire city drifting in the dark, its surface carved with ancient symbols glowing like rivers of energy. From its core, beams of light reached out, scanning the nearby ships. They're not attacking, said the technician. They're scanning, reading us. Reading what? Vila asked. Our DNA, our energy, our history. They're remembering us. The light beam passed through their ship, and for a moment, everyone felt it. The sensation of being seen completely. Memories that weren't theirs flashed before their eyes. They saw Earth, green forests, vast oceans, and humans walking beneath golden skies. They saw laughter, war, creation, and loss. They saw the birth of the first star and the first dream that built reality itself. Then the light faded. The crew gasped, tears streaming down their faces. What was that? Whispered the pilot. A reminder, Vila said. Outside, the human ships began to reshape themselves, folding into new forms, merging and splitting like fluid metal. Within moments, they assembled into one enormous structure, an endless sphere of light encasing the galaxy itself. They are surrounding us, said the scientist. No, Vila corrected. They are protecting us. The voice returned, softer now, almost kind. We created light so others could see. But you forgot why you were meant to look. Across the galaxy, machines stopped working, weapons powered down, and every signal went quiet. The endless noise of civilization faded into peaceful silence. The only thing left was the sound of the hum, steady, calm, like a heartbeat. The stars pulsed again, and through them came one final message. We will not rule you. We will not destroy you. We will remind you what you are made of. On the Consul world, the Speaker of Worlds stepped outside and looked up, tears in his golden eyes. What are they? He whispered. The Varn elder stood beside him. They are the first truth, he said softly. And we are the echo. The blue sphere surrounding the galaxy pulsed once more before slowly fading. The skies cleared, leaving behind nothing but normal stars, normal light, normal silence. Yet every being could still feel it. The pulse inside their hearts, the memory in their bones. Vila watched as his ship's systems returned to life, the AI voice faint but calm. Humanity has restored balance, it said. The cycle continues. What cycle? Vila asked quietly. The eyes' light flickered softly. Creation, remembrance, rest. Vila looked out into the vastness of space, where the blue glow of the human fleet had vanished beyond sight. Will they return again? He asked. The AI paused. Only when the universe forgets. The stars outside blinked once, as if listening. Then, for the first time in millions of years, the skies were truly open. For a moment, the galaxy believed it was over. The blue light faded, the skies cleared, and silence returned. Worlds that had been glowing seconds ago now hung still under familiar suns. But the silence wasn't peace. It was waiting. The hum that had filled every mind didn't disappear. It sank deeper, under the skin, inside the bones, into the very atoms of creation. And then, all at once, the stars began to move again. Not drift, not orbit, but move, like they were being pulled towards something unseen. From every corner of the universe, systems realigned, planets shifted, and gravity itself bent to a new pattern. The scientists on the Consul's world screamed as their instruments broke. It's impossible, one shouted. Every star is changing orbit. No, whispered the Varn elder. Every star is remembering its place. In the void, at the center of everything, the blue light returned, not from the skies, but from within the stars themselves. And this time, the light had form. Thousands of human figures began to emerge from the starlight, not of flesh or bone, but of pure energy, each glowing brighter than suns. They moved through space as if walking on air, silent, graceful, endless. Every world saw them at once. On Vila's ship, alarms blared, but the crew couldn't look away. "They're everywhere," said the navigator. "Every telescope, every viewport, every direction we look, we see them." The scientist whispered, "It's like the entire galaxy became their reflection." One of the glowing figures drew close to their ship, its shape towering yet calm. When it spoke, the words didn't come through sound, they were felt. "Do not fear. We are not your end. We are your beginning." Vila stepped forward, his armor shining under the blue glow. "Why now?" he asked softly. "Why wake after so long?" The figure turned its faceless gaze toward him. "Because you called to us. Because you reached the edge of what we made, and forgot it was us who built it." On the Consul homeworld, millions gathered in the streets, staring up as dozens of these luminous beings descended through the atmosphere, each one as tall as mountains. They didn't destroy or demand. They simply stood there, radiating warmth, as if the planet itself was being healed by their presence. Cities powered down, pollution cleared, oceans shimmered with silver waves, and plants began to bloom in minutes. The Speaker of Worlds fell to his knees before one of the figures. "What are you?" he whispered. "Are you gods?" The figure's voice echoed softly, carrying sadness and pride together. "No. We were what you would have become, had you not forgotten your origin. We are humanity, those who stepped beyond flesh and into creation itself." The crowd trembled as the being reached down, touching the ground. The planet shook, but not in fear. It was awakening. Underground rivers burst with light. Mountains hummed as minerals reformed into crystal structures. The Consul's archives filled with new data, entire libraries appearing out of thin air, knowledge lost since the dawn of the stars. "They're rewriting the laws of physics," gasped one scientist. "No," the Varn elder said, his eyes glowing faint blue. "They are restoring them." On Vila's ship, the crew felt their implants flicker as their own memories changed. They saw glimpses of ancient Earth, not as a single world, but as the seed of all life. Oceans that gave birth to stars, mountains that became galaxies. Humanity had not evolved within the universe. They had created it and then entered it, becoming part of their own design. Vila fell to his knees, overwhelmed. "You made us." The figure nodded slowly. "We made everyone. Each race was born from a fragment of us, a dream given shape. And when creation began to forget its dream, we slept, waiting for your call." "Then what happens now?" Vila asked, his voice trembling. The being raised its hand toward the sky. Every planet, every moon, every star began to pulse in rhythm. "Now," the voice said, "the dream continues." Across the galaxy, every machine, every ship, every piece of matter began to glow. Those who once fought among themselves felt peace for the first time. Empires fell without battle, because no one remembered why they ever existed. There was only light, warmth, and silence. But it wasn't death, it was rebirth. The galaxy itself began to change color, the void between stars filling with a faint mist of blue energy. On the Consul homeworld, children laughed as orbs of light danced in the air, following their voices. On mining worlds, barren for centuries, grass began to grow. The humans, these glowing beings of memory and energy, moved through it all, touching nothing, destroying nothing, only awakening what was already there. "You feared us," their collective voice said, echoing through every star. "But we were never your enemy. We were your reflection. We built this universe not to rule it, but to learn if it could love itself." The speaker cried out, and did it. The voice paused, softer now. "It forgot. But forgetting is part of becoming." As the humans rose higher into the sky, the galaxy pulsed one last time. Their bodies dissolved into streams of blue energy that spread outward like rivers of light, merging into every corner of creation. Stars reignited. Moons stabilized. Space itself became clearer, brighter. The light touched Vila's ship, and every system rebooted perfectly, no errors, no fear. The AI spoke softly. "They are gone." Vila looked out the window and shook his head. "No, he said quietly. They're everywhere now. In the distance, far beyond sight, the glowing spiral of the galaxy took on a new shape, one no telescope had ever seen before. It was the shape of a human hand, open, gentle, holding the stars in its palm. Humanity had not returned to conquer. They had risen to remind all creation of what it was meant to be. The day humanity rose again was not the end of the galaxy. It was the beginning of everything remembering why it existed. When the last wave of blue light faded, the galaxy stood still as if the entire universe was holding its breath. For a moment, it was silent, completely still. But in that stillness, life began again. Worlds long dead started to breathe. Stars that had collapsed reignited, burning with new color. The air on every world shimmered with warmth as if the universe had just taken its first breath again. And then, in that silence, every mind, alien, machine, and spirit, heard a sound. It wasn't a voice this time. It was a pulse, deep and slow, beating across creation like the rhythm of a giant heart. From the smallest moon to the brightest sun, every corner of the galaxy echoed the same message in pure vibration. The law has changed. The ancient rule, carved in the foundation of space itself, "Do not wake the humans," was gone. In its place, new words appeared across the stars, glowing faintly in every sky, written in every language, etched into every living cell. Let them sleep no more. On the Consul's homeworld, the speaker stood on the steps of the Grand Hall, staring at the sky that was now painted with moving light. The stars above formed into vast spirals, and within them, faint shapes of human faces appeared, smiling with peace instead of wrath. "It's beautiful," whispered a young delegate beside him. "No," said the speaker softly, tears falling from his golden eyes. "It's memory." The Varn elder appeared beside him, his body glowing faintly blue, his voice calm. "They didn't conquer us. They reminded us that we were never separate from them, that everything we called ours was already theirs, and yet they demanded nothing in return." The speaker looked around, watching as children touched glowing air, as machines hummed like they were singing, as rivers flowed with silver reflections. "Then what happens to us now?" The elder smiled. "Now we live in the truth." Across the galaxy, every machine that had once feared shutdown now thrummed with energy. AIS spoke softly in human voices, guiding, healing, teaching. Ships traveled without fuel, powered by the pulse of the stars themselves. Empires dissolved, not by war, but by understanding. The need for control vanished, replaced by the quiet unity of purpose. On distant worlds, the ruins of ancient cities began to rebuild themselves, not with stone or metal, but with light. Towers grew from the ground as if the planets themselves were remembering the shapes they once wore when humans first walked among them. And in the void, the place once called the Forbidden Zone was no longer dark. The world once covered in ice now shined brighter than any star. Oceans of light flowed across its surface, and in its heart, a colossal structure rose, a sphere of crystal and energy, pulsing with life. This was the cradle, the origin of everything, reborn. The Consul's fleets, those still alive, gathered around it silently, unable to speak, unable to move. Inside every ship, the same message appeared on every console, every monitor, every soul, return complete. Vila stood on the bridge of his ship, his eyes reflecting the blue horizon stretching before him. The AI spoke softly beside him. "The universe has stabilized. The pulse is constant now. Every star has synchronized. It's beautiful," he said quietly, "and peaceful. The humans have merged with creation," said the AI. "They are no longer separate. They are the energy that flows through everything that exists." Vila nodded slowly. "Then it's over." The AI paused, its voice gentle. "No, Consul. It has just begun. The universe has remembered its makers. It will never forget again." Outside, the blue sphere pulsed once more, sending ripples through the fabric of reality. But instead of destruction, it brought harmony. Planets that once drifted apart now orbited in balance. The empty voids between galaxies began to glow faintly, filled with invisible threads of energy connecting everything. In that moment, Even the smallest atom knew it was part of something vast, ancient, and eternal. They've rewritten the laws, Vila whispered. They've rewritten everything. No, said the AI softly. They've restored what was always true. On the Consul's world, the speaker stood as the new sky filled with a single phrase that stretched from one end of the horizon to the other, glowing softly like a dream made real. You broke the rule, and in doing so, you set us free. The stars shimmered, answering with gentle flickers like laughter. The old rule was gone. The fear of waking humanity was no longer needed. Because humanity was no longer something that could be woken or feared. They had become the heartbeat of creation itself. And as galaxies turned and suns rose over new worlds, every being felt the same peace. The universe was alive again, not ruled by gods, not chained by laws, but guided by memory and light. Vila looked to the glowing sphere one last time and smiled faintly. They were never our past, he said softly. They were our beginning. And somewhere, deep within that endless blue light, a faint echo answered him, gentle and eternal. We never left. The stars brightened as if nodding in agreement, and then, for the first time since the dawn of creation, the universe fell into perfect harmony. No fear, no war, no silence, only the steady, endless hum of life itself. The law was rewritten, the creators had returned, and existence finally remembered its name.